I didn't expect to ever publish this story on YouTube, but it's the Nazis' diabolical master plan that was completed with our help, Health Canada, and parts of the United States. And the truth is that the Nazis didn't lose the war, we did. There was a story told to me in 1995 by a German baker in Wasaga Beach. And he was a young boy working in a research laboratory somewhere in Germany. He never gave me the village or wherever he worked, but for obvious reasons. And he had 5 sisters, and his father had died in the war. He was a pilot. And, he was not a Nazi as such, but when you're 10 years old and you got 5 sisters to support, you didn't have a choice. A lot of people didn't have a choice in Germany, and I had an awful lot of German friends. And my life was severely affected because I have a disease that was caused by canola oil and toxic chemicals, air, food, water, and beverages. And it has no treatment and no cure. And up until recently, there wasn't even a name for it. It's called Parkinsonism. But I had been battling to survive and doing research with scientists in the United States and agencies in England and Europe on all diseases caused by chemicals. And I had a fair bit of small town media. I never made national media. Why would I? I'm Canadian, and our ancestors have been here for 400 years, so we're not important. And that's I'm talking Canada, because we have a tendency to give immigrants all kinds of publicity that we don't give to Canadians. And we have secret filing laws, and we have no democracy. And we are truthfully the most poorly educated on the planet. And so it's not a story that I ever expected to publish, because Monsanto is so dangerous, and they have assassinated an awful lot of people, and that's been well documented. There's a book called On the Take, look it up. But he suddenly, I had gotten really well. I was skiing, I was dancing, and I'd been in a gas mask for a number of years, but I was really doing really well. And suddenly I took this horrific terminal attack. And by then I knew that canola oil was the cause of my disease. And I knew which toxic chemicals I had to avoid, which is why I was in a gas mask, and I was eating organic. So couldn't understand why I was in such horrific pain. And he phoned me one day and he said, "Trudy, come in here quick. I have something to tell you in complete confidence. I don't want my wife or my children to know about it." And the story he told me was so diabolical and so horrific that it was just unbelievable. And that he had discovered that in the lab that he was working in, they were working on developing products. Yes, products. Food products, like from rapeseed oil, which is extremely toxic. And they didn't have a name for it. It wasn't called canola then. That was developed by Canada. And make a long story short, he said they were deliberately creating products in food, air, food, and water, to cause, not to kill us, but to cause chronic illnesses that would be genetic and that would be required prescription drugs to survive and live on. So now you've got a twofold thing. They're going to take over the food market. This is what he told me. They're going to take over the food market worldwide. And they are going to develop these food products. And he didn't know all the specifics because, he was very young when he was working in this lab, but he was horrified. And they were, of course, using human as guinea pigs, and he saw that. And as soon as was old enough to get the hell out of Germany, he left and came to Canada. So anyway, he said to me, he knew that I was poisoned by canola oil. And I said, well, how am I getting it? I'm not buying it. He said, when you eat here, he said, I make sure everything is organic sourdough and there's no canola oil in my products. But he said, you must be getting it in food somehow. And he went on to tell me how they had created this conglomerate and chemical warfare and pesticides and all sorts of ways in which you would cause chronic illness diseases that would make them unbelievably rich, and they would control the human species on the planet. And that was their master plan. Well, today I want to tell you, I don't have to worry about talking about this because it's already on Google, the truth. Monsanto has proven to cause cancer and brain disease, and they're genetically engineered foods and wheat and corn, and the list is endless, and look it up. I'm not going to go into that. And they recently got sold to Bayer, but here's the thing. You do a little bit of Google research like I do, because that's what I do. And I wanted to find out just what was going on with Monsanto. Well, they are a subsidiary of a German company called Bayer. And they were first formed in the late 1800s, 1894 or something. And the man Bayer was a holistic naturalist. He was certainly not a fascist. And it came from a leaf. And the benefits help with heart disease and blood disorders, and everybody knows that story. But somewhere along the line, and I discovered in 1930, they became fascists, Nazis. And I'm going to follow that with a picture of Bayer's Holocaust, collaboration in the Holocaust. And the reason I'm telling you this is that Canada is personally responsible for this canola oil. It was rapeseed because it had proven to be toxic and cause muscular and dysfunction and brain damage to the animals, okay, and crippling, paralyzing attacks, which I've suffered from my entire life since I'm 6 years old. And it was banned in the United States and most of Europe because they now had the evidence how toxic it is. So Health Canada, on the take, which is a fascist company, our Health Canada's most corrupt agency on the planet, they helped to develop canola oil. Canada oil is what it means. Claiming that it's no longer toxic, that they took down the uric acid, but there's other toxins in it. And even though they took down the uric acid, it doesn't matter. It's still poison. Okay, a poison is a poison is a poison. And some will kill you quickly, and some will kill you very slowly. And for a long time, I was on drugs to survive because it lowers your immune system and I get infections very quickly. I have that under control with my okra diet, and I'm not going to get into that. That's already up there on YouTube. You want to find out more, you just search for it. But I was now able to track everything that man told me in 1995 was the truth. And of course, I can't give you his name. I don't even know it anymore. I destroyed it because he asked me to make sure that, and I said, I take so many attacks, you don't have to worry about. I said, 6 months from now, I won't even remember your name. I have trouble remembering mine. But it was, and the thing is, he died 3 weeks later in a massive coronary heart attack. It was genetic and had been caused by the experiments they did on him when he was 10 years old. And he didn't want his family to know. because of the racist prejudices against Germans themselves, and many of whom are certainly guilty, just as my country's guilty. And Canadians who sit back and shut their mouths and say nothing and don't care, they're just as guilty, because that's what allows for dictatorships and fascism. That's why we don't have a democracy in Canada. We think we do, but we don't. We have secret filing laws, and don't get me started on that. I put all that out there. But anyway, then our former Prime Minister, Brian Mulroney, of On the Take fame, got the FDA with false medical research that was done in collaboration with our corrupt Health Canada, that it was now safe and did not cause the brain disorders and Parkinsonism. And the FDA ban was lifted. And from there, boom, it spread all over the world. And now it's everywhere, including in China. They completely succeeded. They spliced into our food pesticides. And there's a word, starts with a G. I can't say it. But anyway, it's all well documented now. It's on Google. And so, I can tell you that this story is entirely true. And so the Nazis didn't lose the war, we did. Now, what's really interesting is how the trick of Bayer buying Monsanto. They owned Monsanto. It was a subsidiary. So in legal tax levels, they purchased it and shut it down because they're under lawsuits. The fascists, so clever. Because the rest of us are sitting around so stupid, like lemmings. We follow maniacs like Trump. He'll go down in history as one of the top maniacs on the planet. But the story that Hans told me, it's today and completely confirmed on Google. And they have successfully completed their diabolical, terrible scheme to create chronic illnesses and cause billions of people to be forced to rely on pharmaceutical drugs to live. And this makes them in full control of the humans as a species. Now, they also got the collaboration of such corrupt agencies besides Health Canada. They were very clever in the United States. They went into a small area, somewhere like Illinois, I don't know, look it up, doesn't matter. But they didn't have high environmental protection laws. So that's how they did the successful completion of their genetically engineered food products. Now, after the war, we brought all kinds of scientists into Canada and the United States. And they were fascist pigs, and we didn't care. And they, of course, developed the nuclear bomb, which we know. But the marketing a cooking oil and marketing food that the world relies on, like wheat and corn, to survive, and potatoes. The most common food in everything we eat, and it's laced with pesticides because it's right in the seed. And they put out of business farmers, holistic organic farmers. Almost 90% are gone. In Canada, our tax laws are such that they can't even declare their expenses. Small farmers can't do that in the United States because they have a constitution. Our Charter of Rights is a joke. It's not worth the price of toilet paper. I mean, we have slavery still in Canada. Our migrant workers are held in slavery in all sorts of places in Ontario, and I don't know where all. There was a small CBC documentary on it. Nothing happened. Nobody cares. They don't make enough money to pay for their room and board, so therefore they don't make enough money to go home or to send any money home. Once they get here, they're completely trapped. It's legal. See, that's fascism. But you don't recognize that. And I'm doing this for you children 200 years from now because I want you to know the truth about our history. The real truth. Not the truth you're going to get in your history books. Not the truth you're going to get in the movies. But the real truth. And Google has most of it, and YouTube has all of my research. Now, some doctors are now just starting to acknowledge that the products of these companies and the pesticides and the poisons placed into the seeds and the wheat and the corn and the rye and too many genetically modified products, including chemical warfare and the hydrogen bomb, are the main cause of cancer and brain disorders. By now, it's too late. It's out of control. They control the world. And they control the food supply in the world, and nothing will ever stop them now. And I'm going to go to I'm going to cut this off now because I'm going to go to a website and I'm going to splice this into this video. Okay, I hope you can see this. This is Bayer, the Holocaust Encyclopedia. Okay, this is on YouTube. That's all you have to type in is Bayer, B-A-Y-E-R, the Holocaust Encyclopedia. The founding of Bayer. Now, we all know that. But what is more important is Bayer and the Holocaust. As a part of the IG Farben conglomerate, which supported the Third Reich, the Bayer Company was complicit in crimes in the Third Reich and its most criminal activities. They took advantage of the absence of legal and ethical constraints on medical experiments to test drugs on unwilling human subjects. And all of that is there, okay? They were active in Auschwitz. And that's very important for you to look all that up. I'm just giving you a quick, brief example, because from here, I'm going to continue to tell you about Monsanto. Now, this is a site that's on Google, and it's very easy to find. It's called The Complete History of Monsanto, the World's Most Evil Corporation. And it has all the evidence of what I'm talking about and their connection to German Bayer and just what they have done. I mean, to think that only Germans were Nazis is really, really ignorant and foolish on our part. And most of that's because of our education system is just so bad and our history is so distorted, including the movies. But this is unbelievable how easy it was for them to create a company that would expand chronic illness. Sorry, my allergies. I'm in terrible heat here. But I had to shut the air conditioner off. So in 1930s, its first hybrid seed corn expanded into detergents, soaps, industrial cleaning products, rubber plastics, and yes, all toxic. In 1940, they began research on uranium and the atom bomb. Yes, that's who they are. And it continued unabated, unheeded by law, in a killing spree by creating pesticides for agriculture containing deadly dioxin, which poisons the food and water supplies. Monsanto failed to disclose that dioxin was used. In the 1950s, they were closely aligned with the Walt Disney Company. Yes, they created, I'm not saying Disney knew what was up, but they're very, very clever, you know. These fascist Nazis are diabolical. Now, they created a movie that would prove that plastic wasn't toxic. But anyway, you can read about all that. It's all here. The GMO killer seeds, aspartame causes any number of disease, and it's in all of the diet, and they created that aspartame. It's Monsanto, Montel Williams got MS from aspartame, but there's many, many other things. And the canola oil story is still not fully exposed, but I have that all over YouTube. So it's a very long story, but if you ever want the truth, people, because it is on the web, 200 years from now, you're going to find this, okay? It's all there. Now, in addition to my previous post, the next that I'm going to give you on my GoPro is the cornucopia origin and the known health concerns on Roundup, and Monsanto is now in a lawsuit, okay? And I just want you to know that Bill Gates and Kevin O'Leary are famous people. All of you should know those names. Kevin O'Leary is on the Shark Tank, and they're all big supporters of Monsanto and poisoning everybody on the planet with their genetically engineered Roundup, which is in the seed. Okay, it's right in the seed. So there's a lot of history on that, but I'm just going to give a quick brief story on that. Okay, this is called the Cornucopia, Cornucopia Institute. And there's many, many, many others on Google now that will report the concerns of glyphosate, the main ingredient in Roundup. And it's skyrocketed around the world, and it is unbelievable, the diseases that it causes. But this was known in 1933, okay? This was known in 1933. And it was patented by Monsanto in 1974. And I'm not going to, give it to you. You can read it, you can find it, and look it up. But they all knew. So you need to understand that the fact that this is 2020 and scientists and doctors are admitting, because somebody's leaking the truth out little by little by little, but this was known in 1933, okay? And there are over 650 lawsuits now against Monsanto, which is why they appear to have been sold to Bayer, but as I said earlier, they were already owned by Bayer. They're a subsidiary of the German company. All right? So just remember what I said. This is all fascism. This is all the Nazis owned. And Brazil, the government, is completely controlled by second and third generation Nazis. So it hasn't gone away. They did not lose the war. We did. And very briefly, a pig farmer in 1999 told me that his pigs wouldn't eat canola, and he wondered why. And we were in a large restaurant, and I said, because pigs are smarter than people. They know when something is toxic, and everybody laughed. And the children asked me to do a little cartoon on it, which I did. But looking back, I didn't know the half of it at the time, I didn't know until I was 72 years old, until 5 years ago, that it was in organic food. Because they're listening, canola oil is organic. they're not spraying pesticides on it. They don't have to. It's built into the product. But and it's not even on the label in Canada. We have no right to know what's in our food. So I just wanted to end on that note. If you ever come across that picture or that cartoon I made, it was just to, I was trying. The children were interested in my research more than the adults, but the police all thought that that was amusing. In fact, the OPP at the time switched from cars to bike riding and developed and started working on using a bike to check out in the parks instead of the car. What do you see from a car? And Sergeant Lake agreed with me that that was really silly. And I shared with them. I published a little book and I shared with them, and most of them went on my diet and they developed really nice bodies and their wives were very happy. So, just a little bit of humor there. But there's nothing funny about what has happened to us on this planet. And I do this for the children. God bless. All right, this is a little bit difficult, but I'm going to try. I only have 3 documents right now on canola that are the evidence of what I've been trying to tell people for the last, 25 years or more. Since I first discovered. But what I didn't know, it was in food, and it's not on the label in Canada, which is why it is so much worse in Canada and the brain damage and diseases that it causes. But the full story of canola's development starts with the Nazis in 1930 and Bayer. And from there it goes to Monsanto in St. Louis. And from there it goes to Canada. And the actual source, I'll try to Google it and see if I can find it after I share with you these pages. But these are extremely important pages. Now, Prince Charles tried to fight it, but unfortunately, the British tabloid media are really so evil that they just made fun of him. But he tried to champion and fight against canola oil because he comes from a heritage going back to 1775 of holistic medicine and diets for disease control. That's the royals. And it started with Prince Charles II, King Charles II in 1775. But anyway, this is in 1999, a food labeling debate that took place in Canada that we lost. The Consumers Protection Agency in the United States fought for us and we lost. And down below is the evidence that it was banned originally until 1994. And it was banned because of it proved to be extremely toxic, and then reducing the uric acid levels is fake. It's just as toxic now as it ever was. And the next thing I'm going to share with you is that if you can read that, the low uric acid did not restore normal growth in experimental animals, although it was heralded as a success The long-term effects of low uric brassica oil produced lesions in male rats, cancer, and they had brain disorders and various crippling attacks, and that's in veterinary medicine, which you will not find anymore. It's been removed from the Library of Congress, but a woman sent me a copy, and I put all of that out on YouTube on a separate, as much as I could, on YouTube. And this is in 2001. I tried to bring to the attention of the Commissioner Romanoff on health issues, but it was ignored. But what I do have is proof that I did write to them. And since then, Rachel Parent and a number of other people have all tried, and it's been ignored. And the next thing I will try to find is I will share with you the origin of canola in Canada. But just remember, this is a Nazi fascist product first developed in 1930 to create chronic illness disease. The Nazis didn't lose the war, we did. And with our collaboration, they successfully completed their diabolical plan to create chronic illness. The rest of the story on canola from rapeseed, R-A-P-E, rape, is so complicated. It originally in the 4th century in India, it was used as an industrial oil, lamp oil, and it was used as an industrial oil in industry for hundreds of years. Somewhere along the line, somebody did tell me that it was used to run the tanks in Africa by the Nazis. And when they saw how easy it was to grow this shit, they developed it into a food, a cooking oil. And they're very clever, the Nazis. They went under one name in England, in the UK. They went under a different name, Canola oil, in Europe. But in 1956, scientists at the FDA recognized that this had very toxic side effects, so they banned it. And it was banned until 1994. And from there you have Canada's major player with Monsanto and German Bayer money, that they got the FDA ban lifted, and Brian Mulroney got the FDA ban lifted in 1995. So that's really the bottom line, because there isn't any one story. It's all over the map, little bits and pieces here and there. And what I've tried to get for you is to coordinate from 1930 to today. What we have is a Nazi diabolical plan that was completed successfully with our cooperation to create chronic illness worldwide and turn us all into prescription drug addicts to survive. And that's the bottom line. And it cost me my life, it cost me my career, and it cost me my son. And then, like a fool, I tried to get media, and I tried to go to court to get legal rights. Yeah, I'm that fool. And I never made it to court. All I lost was hundreds of thousands of dollars in my inheritance. So I've done my bit. Children of the future, this is our history. The Nazis did not lose the war. We did.